comments or anything, you are more than welcome to write it on the chat, and Carlos and I will be
Mhm.
checking. And uh, wait, I'm going to share my screen, and we're going to be checking the chat. I'm going to share my presentation. Give me a second. First of all, I want to ask you guys, I mean, you can raise your hand, but do we all here, we have taught classes, English classes? Have we all taught English classes face to face or online? We all have experience.
Most of them,
Yeah.
I believe. I believe the ones are connected. I believe every single one. I
Yes.
believe.
All right. Perfect. And can you raise your hand or you can write on the chat who has online experience, like teaching online virtual classes? Do you have experience too? Jaxelis, yes.
Yaxeli has
Yes,
experience.
both of them. I have experience in both
Both.
environments.
Hmm.
Very good. Suhe? Is that, that's how you
Yes,
pronounce it? Okay.
yes, yes,
Suhe
yes.
too. Very good. All right.
It's kind of
Excellent.
tricky because there is Suheimi and Suheili. So I say,
And they're two different. Okay.
yes. When I
Okay. I
say
thought it was
Suhe,
this.
it's Suheimi. When I say Suheili, okay, well, it's the full name, but don't
All
worry.
right. Okay. Right, because I'm going to talk from my experience, but also I'm going to talk in general about online English classes. So if you have experience, maybe you're going to have more questions, but if you don't have experience, this is a very good way to see what questions you might come up to that you say, oh, this is interesting. Like, what about? And you can ask me questions, all right? So we're going to talk about instructional design for online English courses, and I'm going to talk from my experience. Specifically, I have an online English institute that is called EnglishBytes, and I'm going to take some examples from the institute and from the classes that we have already in use. So first, I'm going to talk a little bit about the institute per se, so you can get to know me and English Byte. So my name is Karla. Very nice to meet you all. And I started working with English in 2015, so almost, well, no, almost 10 years ago. I studied at UCB, and then I studied with British Council. I did a CELTA certificate and a TILEX certificate, and then I've been working with English and with institutes, English institutes. But English Bytes was born in 2017, PP. PP is pre-pandemic. So for me, like the word is divided pre and post pandemic. And English Bytes is pre-pandemic. So that means, and this is important because when English Bytes was born, there was no Zoom awareness, there was no like online classes high, like it was very new. But I thought that maybe it was easier for people to just have a class from their home and not waste time going to a place for an hour, coming back to their home for another hour, to have 1 hour class. So instead of wasting 2 hours, they could just use 1 hour. So that was actually the objective of English Bytes. That was the problem that I saw, and this was the solution. Improved efficiency leads to time saving. All right. And right now, after how many years? 2018. More, well, we actually started working with more students in 2020. So let's say 4 years, 4 or 5 years. We have had more than 500 students from different parts of the world. So during this time, we've had more than 500 students in our institute, where Carlos is part of as well. um, so first, I wanted to talk about anticipated problems in online lessons. So before we start, I wanted to ask you, what problems do you think that we might have in an online lesson? What problems do you think that we might
Use the chat,
encounter?
guys. Use the chat, guys. I'll read your answers to help Karla.
You can use the chat. You can open your mic if you want to.
I think one of the problems would be the comprehension, maybe, or the ability to adapt to a new online, to a new whole way to teach or to learn in this case.
All right. How to adapt your lessons and to an online environment, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
for a student and the teacher also.
All right. Very good. Like adapting, that's different.
Yes.
From the traditional way to an online way. Very good. Any other problems that we might have?
Electricity, says Suhe.
Yeah,
I mean, in
exactly.
Venezuela, electricity, yeah.
That's a very in Venezuela, in different parts of the world. For example, we work a lot with students in the US, especially in Florida, where Florida they have hurricane seasons. And when they have hurricane seasons, they might have power
Outage.
cuts.
Mhm.
Exactly, for maybe more than 2 days. So that's an anticipated problem.
Yeah.
Any other problems that you think that might
Internet
appear?
connection, because they could have electricity. That's what Jaxali mentions in the chat.
Internet connection, correct. Very good. Also, it might happen that it's not internet connection from their home, but if what happens if they are in the car and they want to start the class, or if they are in a different place and they're having internet connections, also you have to adapt, not always to a laptop, assuming that the person has a laptop. But what if the person connects from a tablet or from their phones? Also, you have to take that into consideration.
Camille says, maybe staying focused on the subject.
Yeah, that's a very important one too. Sometimes, and this is for the teacher and for the students as well. How do we stay in focus and how do we guide a lesson without losing our main aim, correct? So I'm going to show you I mean, you can keep writing some of the problems that you might think of, but I'm going to show you some of the problems that we have encountered with online lessons. So the first one, as you said, and it's the first one that it comes to our mind when we think about virtual lessons, and it's internet connection. I think that we have our hand. Suhe?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, I think one of the problem is trying not to make them feel like a wall between the teacher and the student, and try not to make them feel bored, because sometimes it's a problem. It is a problem.
Totally. Engaging and creating rapport with students is a little bit more difficult through virtual classrooms. Yes, totally. And we're going to talk about it a little bit, but yes, creating rapport with students takes a little bit more time when it's online. I think, I don't know if we have it here. Well, lack of interaction could be, but the second one is difficult to use platforms. That could be an anticipated problem if you have a platform that you don't know or that you are not comfortable with. Audio and video problems also may be related to the internet, electricity. If you are working on a lesson and the audio doesn't work well, or there was a problem and you didn't save correctly the video. The same as files or materials not loading properly. The same, what happens, you cannot stay quiet and silent while the video is loading or it's not working. So what do you do? So you have to think about these problems before you go to an online class. Lack of interaction. If we are behind our computer, it's easier not to interact. So it's more visible if you are in a class and you are not talking, you are just sitting, and the teacher can see you and can come to your seat and tells you, hey, what happened and what's going on, right? But in a virtual classroom, students feel more comfortable not to interact, just turn off their cameras and like, I'm not here. So that lack of interaction, how you're going to approach it and how you're going to overcome it is also that we have to think about that. Already dense or poorly organized content. So as Sue has said, online classes can be boring if we are not organized and are not prepared correctly. So having a very dense online class is just a way of making a boring class. So one of the main things that make an online class successful is a well organized and well planned class. Okay, so you have to think about that. Is my class boring? Is my class too dense? Confusion about instructions. That is also very important. Why? Because when you are in a face-to-face class, you can see people on their eyes, and you see maybe who's confused, who didn't understand, right? But when you are in an online class, it's a little bit more difficult to see if they understood your instructions, if they know what to do. So confusion about instructions, it's something that you have to make very clear. I mean, you have to make instructions very clear. And I'm going to tell you what I do. And difficulty adapting the class to different learning paces. So we know that we all have different learning skills, abilities. So you have to take into consideration this is an online class, but there are still people that learn in a different way. How do I adapt my lesson to these students? So far, do we have any questions, comments? Salvador said there could be distractions at home when it comes to the students. Totally. A lot of people, I don't know, if you take a class, you're a mom, your baby's crying on the corner on the other room, so you get distracted. That's very common too. And as a teacher, what do? You must always have materials to show. You can't improvise as you're in the classroom. Exactly. This, I think, is true, partly true, right? Because sometimes, as teachers in general, it's very possible and very common that we run out of materials face to face or online. So I think that in general, you have to know how to handle situations where you don't have materials. It's only you and the students. If you have your mom, your boyfriend, people going around, how do you face that? I don't know, Carlos, what do you do? I'm just going to give an example. Maybe Carlos, you can tell me what you do. In my case, I just have to. I mean, you just have to say it. Like it's the pink elephant in the room. I can hear your baby crying. So just take a moment on chair and say, "Hi, is everything okay? I can see that you're distracted. You want to take 2 minutes and come back because it's better if you take 2 minutes from your class and a distracted student." Okay,
Yeah, or
Carlos, I don't know.
sometimes take advantage of those distractions. For example, there is this new set of students that I have now with the academy, and one of them has a little girl who likes to just sit on her lap while she's having the class. So one day she was going to sit down when she noticed that her mom was in class. She was shy. She ran away. But last week she approached and I told her, no, don't worry. You can have her on her lap if you know she's not going to be distracting for you. Once she sat down, I could notice the girl had long curly hair. So I was like, oh, look, your hair is like mine. So we started talking about that and in English, which is the best because maybe it was not related with the lesson, but at least you are doing it in English. And it's everyday conversation in English. What's
Yeah.
the purpose of the classes? So sometimes you can take advantage of those distractions.
Yeah. That's why they say like every moment is a teachable moment. So every moment you can use it to teach something. And yeah, of course you need to have when you're planning a class, you need to have extra materials just in case you run out of materials. You need to have that like ace on your sleeve, right? But just also remember that at one point in your professional career, you're going to have a moment where you're not going to have anything. It's just you and the students. So you have to be prepared. That's why you have to know your content very well, your lesson plan, because you will have to teach it without materials. Jaxelis?
I actually had a moment like this, exactly like this, on Thursday because I have this little student who he is like 6 or 7 years, but he sometimes or mostly in class he's boring. He doesn't want to go because he's sleepy, he's tired, and I took advantage because he came to the class very happy, very excited about a book about Nemo, about finding Nemo, and he was telling me, "Teacher, look at this book. Let's read it. Let's practice." My teacher lent it to me. Let's practice, and I saw he was interested in sea animals. So my class wasn't meant to be about the animals, but like I saw he was so exciting, and I said I have to take advantage of this. So I found out fast some draws about animals in the sea, and I brought them. I told to the secretary to print it, and I brought him and I showed him. Is he was, "Teacher, look at this, like in the book, and this is in this," and I was finally doing something. And yes, that's about extra material is very important.
Yeah, that's perfect. And that's why getting to know your students, creating rapport with them, like getting to know what they like, what they don't like, it's so important because you can make the class more engaging. So now that you know, for example, that he likes animals, like sea animals, you can try to incorporate, maybe not the class about sea animals, but you can put like images in the background. So he looks at the presentation or he looks at you a little bit longer. But yeah, I mean, that's great. That helps you a lot. That helps you a lot. I love it. All right. Well, guys, I'm going to tell you about what is the objective of designing and planning on virtual classes, right? So the objective is our objective when we are planning a virtual class is organizing and creating clear and dynamic online learning experience. We want to provide effective education for students. This will be achieved by adapting. I took this from um, a general definition, all right? It will be achieved by adapting to the online environment strategically using digital tools and ensuring learning is accessible. This is why I chose it accessible, interactive, and focused on students. So, this is very important. As I told you, I'm going to talk from my experience. Online classes to make it a bit more engaging and to make students participate, they need to be student centered. If it is teacher centered, you're going to lose your students' attention in 2 minutes. Okay. Um, all right. How is the design process for me and for general classes in online classes? So first you have to analyze your students' needs. All right. What's that they need? What do they want to achieve? So the analyzing process, you can do it through needs analysis, through getting to know you, through a previous interview, but you need to know your students before. You need to design content that is easy to navigate and understood. After you analyze your students, you need to design your class. All right. You need to design where you're going to present not only your class, but the class before, what's going to happen after that class. It needs to make sense that what you're teaching makes sense with the previous class and what comes after. All right. So it's not like today I'm going to teach about, I don't know, sea animals, for example, like Jaxelis, and tomorrow I'm going to talk about present perfect. So these two don't make sense. So you have to make sure that is smooth, your syllabus is smooth and cohesive as possible. Create activities that encourage active participation through various formats. In online classes, you have to first encourage active participation. How do you do that? And I'm going to tell you a little bit, but after, but it's not as easy in face to face because of eye contact. I cannot make the same eye contact with you guys as if we are in a face-to-face class. So it's easier when I want to nominate someone to participate and I make eye contact with them. When you have a camera, it's not direct eye contact. You're looking at a camera, you're not looking at me, right? So, what ways do you think that you can make students participate? And you can write it in the chat. How do you think that you make students participate and be active during an online class? If you cannot like look at them and touch them on the shoulder. Maria Daniela?
Maybe maybe doing PowerPoint of first cute presentations, interesting interesting presentation for them, maybe.
Mhm.
Yeah, that, because that way you can see if they are like focused, because you are teaching something that they like.
Exactly. Okay, they're teaching something that they like, so maybe they can, they want to engage. Jack Sellis says that, uh-huh. So relating the class to something that they like. hmm Giving them different ways to answer or interact, not only by asking, but maybe the chat. Very good. Exactly. And also, something that's very important in virtual classes, I mean, what you said is correct. Exactly. Make engaging classes and using the chat, not only the mic. Uh, but something that you have to take into consideration with virtual classes is that this is more an audio experience. I mean, it's a visual and audio experience. So instead of just saying, oh, who wants to participate? Because this is an audio experience, name the students by name. Like, Jaxelis, what do you think about this? So you catch the students' attention, right? So they actively participate. Like, Carlos, what do you think? So you make them interact because this is an audio experience. Correct?
Salvador
Maybe more
says,
confident.
also because maybe some of our students that might be more confident on the writing skills rather than the speaking ones. So he says, I try to get them to use things that are around them, to look around and ask them to do something related to what we're studying. Yes, William, you can do it. Don't worry. Write it on the chat and I'll read it for the teacher, Carla.
Exactly. Very good. Yeah, you can use realia, you can use the background so they interact. Just have to be aware when you do things like those kind of activities that you don't lose students' focus, right? That they don't start looking at their window and they just stay looking at their window for 15 minutes, all right? So always make sure that you know how to bring them back.
Hello.
Hi, William.
Um, I can make some activities first by show them how to say hello or describe something that sometimes happen in the daily routine or in a thing of common that we have. For example, if they like sports, they like something about the series or something like that. First, I show them and I teach them how to use good vocabulary, and then we are making some conversation in English, and it's important because it's improve our listening, our comprehension, and also we making the vocabulary that we just made.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, you can engage them with something that they like, that you see that they like, and from there, just go on and continue, have conversations with them. You can also use these topics in examples, as we mentioned before. So, yeah, totally. It's very good to use something that they like because that's going to increase your chances that they're going to participate and be more active. Very good. And well, after we create activities, you have to plan assessments, how you're going to measure that the students actually learned. And that's important too, right? Because in even if it's an online class, you have to measure that the students are learning and that they are actually following the content that you're giving. I think in the chats, Jaxeli says, I also another way could be giving them some them like responsibility to choose some activity. Yes, it could be. Carlos, and what do you think, Carlos?
I mean, not to choose, not exactly, because remember, first thing, you need to make sure that your student is like ready to talk about that topic that he wants to talk about. If your student, and I think I told you guys, I had this Argentinian student, not with the academy, by the way, just in case, it was particular classes. He was like, I want you to teach me English for business purposes. Okay. And so first class, I like to do like some evaluation to see what your level is. No, 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 no. I already speak English. I just want you to help me with conversational English for business. Okay. My first question that day was, okay, could you tell me where you work? What's the name of your company? And he was like, work medicine work here. So if he doesn't know the basics, you cannot just let him choose the class. You can adapt the class to what he wants. Okay, you're going to teach the basic structure, daily routines, for example, and then you use the daily routines of a guy who goes to a company, a person who owns a company. But you do need to work with the basics first. You have to follow your syllabus.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. That's why I think that as teachers, we need to be very to think very well how do we say things, right? How do we communicate? Because, for example, in Carlos' case, how do you say that to a student without saying it? You don't have the level. Like you are A1. What are you talking about? Yeah, you cannot do this. So how do you communicate? How do you show them? Is part of creating and designing the plans, right? Okay, well you want to talk business? All right, we can talk business, but we're going to do it without saying it in a very basic level. That's part of creating and designing your class. Jaxelis? Oh, she left. I think that she left.
Sorry. Yes. Okay, I got it.
Okay, okay.
But the teacher, Carlos, didn't get the point. I said that they could choose some activity, but always keeping the same topic. Of course, that I could ask them like, what would you like to do? To do some, for example, a quiz or an oral activity. That's the main point that I wanted to explain.
All right. Like the ways that they like learning. How do you
Yeah.
like learning?
Of course.
All right. Okay. Yeah, that's a little bit different. Okay. Good. All right. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the designing process of a class. But first, I want to take and to make some points that I think they're important. Carlos, if you see something in the chat, you more than welcome to interrupt. All right.
Yeah, Becky just said, it's like it's also important to remind our students that they're studying because of a goal they have related with the language. Since people not always try to learn a language solely because they like it, some might do it because they need it, and sometimes they might have a conflicted relationship with learning the language. So I think it's good to remind them that the activities we set for them is towards a goal, hobbies, jobs, socializing, etc. That's it.
Exactly. And I think someone said something that is very important, that is confidence. And mindset is very important when you're working with in English in general. All right. You have to attack mindset first and then abilities like writing, speaking. Because what happens if you go straight to materials to the point of, well, this is the present simple, but the student doesn't even like English or doesn't even, as she mentioned in the chat, doesn't even feel confident because maybe a teacher told them in the past that they didn't work, that it wasn't, you are not good for English, you're never going to speak. So now you are going to teach present simple to a person that is carrying this for, I don't know, years and years, right? So mindset is very important. Talk about expectations, talk about, and make English. I think that sometimes people have big idea of what English is. Oh, it's like something big, impossible, like greater than it is. So make sure that you work on mindset, expectations, and then you go to your class, right? Especially when you're working with new students. And things that I wanted to point out that are important in virtual classes is when you're choosing your material, make sure that your material is clear. Clear in the means that it's easy to understand and is also related to your main aim or to the topic of your class. All right. So when you're choosing material, when you're choosing your material is very, very important. You don't want, because the student's going to ask you about whatever you have in your presentation. So you have to be very clear about where you're going to choose and what you're going to have in your presentation. Fonts, for example, what fonts are you going to have? Is the student have some problems reading? Do you have to make it bigger? Do you have to make it smaller? Is it maybe a more serious class? So fonts, colors, sometimes cameras change the colors of presentations. So what colors we cannot use, right? Asking people, what color did you see if you are teaching colors in an online class is different than when we are doing in a face-to-face class. So you have to take that into consideration. And what colors also you use in your presentation to highlight words, they could be different. Sometimes you don't see colors and words get lost. Okay. Carlos? Yeah.
Yeah, talking about the colors, that's extremely important. There is a class in EnglishBytes when we work with the colors, and the one that looks like orange in my computer, I don't know why. Whenever I show it, it doesn't look orange. It looks absolutely different. And students are always like, I mean, in my computer, it looks orange, but for them, it looks different. So that's extremely important when you're working with colors.
Yeah, exactly. And you, for example, if a student tells you, "Oh, I see it orange," you cannot fight that. I mean, if the student sees orange, it's because for them it's orange. So, all right, no problem. Um, then we have speaker selection. This is what I was telling you about. How do you make people participate? How do you know who speaks and when, right? You don't want to interrupt your students. So you have to feel comfortable nominating people by name and knowing how when to make silence and wait for the person to finish. All right. So you need to know how to select your speaker. Visual support during instruction. So giving instructions, like I told you guys, in an online class is a little bit different. Because you have to, they're not going to tell you, or you're not going to see if the students actually didn't understand. So the good thing, or the advantage with online classes, is you have the visual and the speaking part at the same time. So have your instructions, if you think that instructions are difficult for you, have your instructions written down on your presentation. All right. I always apply the rule of three. That means that your instruction shouldn't be longer than 3 steps and shouldn't be longer than 1 sentence. Okay, so if you can summarize your instructions in 3 and in only 3 sentences, you're ready to go. For example, read the text, highlight the verbs in past, and discuss their meaning. Like 3 steps, and that's it. Try to exercise that, and I guarantee you that you're going to be more effective with your instructions and you're not going to have to repeat it over and over again. And use the advantage that you have, that verbal and written instructions for online classes, they complement each other well. You can have them there and be saying it at the same time. So it's perfect. So far, questions, comments, guys? Are we good? I don't know if I'm going too fast. Is it good? Yeah? All right. All right. Now let's go a little bit to how I design a class for EnglishBytes, like from my experience, right? So first, let's go from the syllabus. So you need to have a syllabus, like I told you guys, that is coherent and cohesive. So you don't jump from one topic to another topic that doesn't make a lot of sense. So if for us, we have, and we have been working for a long time on a progressive and progressive syllabus that is also practical and useful for the context of our students. Also, the objective of our classes is to building up prior knowledge. That means that we can always warm up, or we can always go back to previous classes. So each lesson follows a natural progression. And all the classes, and I'm going to give you examples, all the classes are planned more or less the same way. So we start with a warm-up, right? That normally that's a review of the previous class so that we activate previous knowledge. We have an introduction phase where we just introduce the topic through a picture, through a conversation. Then we have presentation where we actually have the grammar point or the vocabulary point that we're going to tackle. Then we have practice. Normally, this is the control practice. And then we have evaluation, that this is normally the freer practice. Right? So I'm going to show you examples, but all the classes are staged the same way. And like I told you guys, our classes are student-centered, so I take that into consideration when I'm planning my class. Because when it's a student-centered, the teacher is not like the mastermind like of the class. It's just a guide. Like we are there to guide students from point A to point B, from not knowing that this existed to, oh, I can use it in a conversation. So the class is there, but the teacher just guides the student so they can find their objective, right, of the class. So how do I plan the class, right? The evaluation of the class or the fair practice is based on our aim and our sub-aim of the class. Guys, can you tell me, you can raise your hand or write in the chat, who has done, and Carlos, I don't know if maybe they have done it in class, who has done an lesson plan? Have you worked with lesson planning?
Yeah, remember they had to do it also with the scaffolding method.
Okay.
They have done it. Mhm.
All right, perfect. So we are all familiarized with the terms main aim, sub-aim, how to get it. Okay, very good.
Yeah, the only observation, sorry, is that most of them, especially those who are working in the private system in Venezuela, they have to follow the old plans that they give you with like like the attitude of a student, the content, materials, which is too many stuff that you really don't need to show on paper. So most of
Yeah,
them need to use that old, outdated format.
yeah, totally. I mean, yes, and we have, yeah, sometimes we have to do it. Uh, they don't like it. Yeah, it's if they modify it, yeah, it depends on the place where you work. Um, I think that the most important, because actually lesson plans are very useful. Like you need them, they are your skeleton for the class. So if you don't know what's next or you don't know how to follow, you just forget, you get lost. It's very useful to have your lesson plan. Even if it's not in paper, it's in your mind. You know what comes next. But for me, the most important is just to summarize what's your aim, what's your objective in the class. I normally use a life skill or a skill that they're going to use in real life. For example, students will be able to ask for personal information. And what's a grammar point? It could be a grammar point and then a vocabulary point, or if you just have one. Students will practice asking for personal information using, and this is my grammar point, double H question words. Okay, so this really helps you to plan your classes and to keep it neat. So somebody mentions about like getting out of focus and start including other things. If you have a lesson plan, you shouldn't be out of focus because it's going to help you narrow down the activities to your aim. All right. It's very easy if you don't have a lesson plan or if you don't have the structure to include more things. I'm going to show you an example of a class. Do it for the first classes and then it's going to come natural. All right. You don't have to do it for every class of your life. If you work for some places, maybe you have to, but for some others, no. So for example, we start with objective. I'm going to show you more or less how we plan classes. So you don't go out of focus. How do you stay within your topic? So we always start with today's objective. Actually, we always start with a warm up before this. That is, how was your day? What did you do yesterday? Do you remember our last class? What did we talk about? And did you practice or what did you do? So we always start with a warm up. Then we go to the objective of the class. So the student know what to expect and we also give them point B, right? Then we go to the introduction phase. So for example, in this class, we're going to talk about famous people and we're going to talk about past simple, was or were, right? The verb to be. Just a tip. More narrow and more specific your teaching point is, the better, right? So instead of just teaching past simple, teach the verb to be in past. Then teach regular verbs in past. Then teach irregular verbs in past. Then questions in past simple. And it's going to help you to keep it more controlled. Because if you teach past simple, the student's going to have a lot of questions and you're not going to have time to answer them all. So keep it very specific. So in this case is the verb to be in past simple, right? So in the context, because you always need a context, in the context of famous people. So for example, here I show them some famous people and they're going to help me talk about them, give them some information. So in here, I'm in introduction phase. They don't know it, but they're already receiving information about past simple. And then we go to the presentation stage. So here I actually show what is the grammar point that we're going to talk about. So if you can see from here, we have actually the grammar point. So I can use this to go to my presentation stage, right? Oh, well, do you know that word? That is the verb to be in past. Let's see how we can use it in a different sentence. So I show them, all right, affirmative, negative, and questions. We have some examples. You can also, I do it. Now that you know, can you highlight where do you see it here? And we practice between stages, right? Then this is the presentation stage. Now we're going to the practice stage. They use was, positive and negative, singular, plural, right? And they can complete because they know how to do it. This is the control practice. So we just practice using what we learned in the presentation stage, and this is the practice stage. And then we finally go to the evaluation stage. For us in EnglishBytes, normally it's a conversation because we have a communicative approach. So normally it's a conversation, but you can have a different type of evaluation. Maybe you want them to write a paragraph. Maybe you want them to talk to a partner, interview a partner. But you need some kind of evaluation. And this is like very summarized, the stages, but this is like an hour class. And actually it could be longer because at the end, you could be doing more exercises. Like if the conversation is fluent, it could be longer than an hour. Because maybe in the evaluation stage, you can ask students, all right, can you write it down? Can you talk about a different person? So it could be like that. So far, questions, guys, about this planning. Carlos, I don't know if I missed something that.
No, important thing that Carla mentioned before she started with this regarding instructions. Remember, some of you were my students in different subjects, and I always corrected the part of instructions because they were like extremely long. And the 3-step tip, it's amazing. Instead of below, you will see a text. On this text, you can, no. Look at the text below. Complete the blank spaces with verbs in the simple past. Discuss with your teacher. 3 sentences. And you have the 3 instructions. It's more straight to the point. That's the most important thing for classes.
So for example, here in this part, because I'm thinking of instructions, we normally have them written down on the presentation. So the students that are maybe more visual, because we have to think about different ways of learning, they have it there. So maybe if they didn't understand very well the teacher, they have it here. So work in pairs, think about a famous person, and answer the questions, right? So we have the 3 steps. First, it's going to be a little bit difficult, I know, to summarize their instructions if you're not used to it, because you think that you're going to need more words. But if you practice, you really see that you don't need the words. Work start with actions. Let me see if I have here. For example, this text, this exercise. How would you tell a student to, how would you explain this exercise? I don't know if we have a volunteer that maybe wants to participate. If you have this exercise, how would you explain? How would you give instructions?
Try to do it in the 3 sentences tip, guys. That's the exercise. Of course, you see was, and where, and the sentences with the space. 3 sentences. Who wants to volunteer? You can activate your mic or raise your hand or write it down on the chat.
So imagine that this is your presentation. How will you give instructions for this exercise?
I think they're writing it.
Or maybe they're scared. No, I'm just kidding.
Hello.
Hello, William.
In the second exercise, we're going to practice the verb to be in past. In negative and positive structure, complete the sentence using the to be verb in past. These are the actions. It's all.
Okay. Carlos, yeah?
No. The last part of what you said, William, that's the thing. For example, complete the following sentences in the simple past. Use the options given. For example, only 2 or 3 sentences. Not in the following exercise, you will see. No. You're not telling a story. It's just 3 precise instructions. 3 precise instructions or sentences.
Yeah. Exactly. Especially in the following part, that part maybe is not that relevant because the exercise is here. So in the following, it's this, right? So they are seeing the exercise. So you can just point, maybe, and you can omit the first part because you can just point to the exercise. Another volunteer?
Yeah, but Suhe, go.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
For the next exercise, complete the sentences using the verb to be in past according to the sentence.
Yeah, but the last one. For the next exercise, complete the using the pronoun verb to be in the past. Yeah. Jackson?
In the following sentences, complete the correct verb to be.
With the correct form.
With the correct verb to be in past.
Okay. All right. Any other? Somebody, because you're missing a very important action that you have to do.
The
Any,
point, yes, the points. How much will, I mean, there are 10 sentences. How many points will be?
No, this is just a class,
no.
not an evaluation. It's just a class, not an evaluation.
Okay.
This is no, but an action that you have to do in the exercise. I think like you're missing in general, right? Let's see, another person that wants to practice.
On the chat, Becky says, take into account the subject and then fill in the blanks with what you think is the correct form for each.
Okay.
Complete, Marianela says, complete the following sentences with was, wasn't, were, and weren't.
Okay. Complete. Okay. Very good. I think what's the first thing that you have to do when you're completing a sentence? What's the first action that you have to do?
They are panicking right now.
Maybe we have to read the
Complementary.
sentence.
Read the sentences. Exactly.
Uh-huh.
That's the first action. So that needs to be your first instruction. Read the sentences. Read the sentences. Number 2, after you read, what do you have to do? It's just a two-part instruction.
Read and complete.
Exactly. Read the sentences and complete them with the correct form of the verb to be.
Look
If
at what
they
Anna
d-
says. Read the sentences, fill the blanks with the correct form of verb to be in past.
Exactly. Two is a two-part instruction. Read and
Hello, Sophie.
complete. Read and complete with the correct form of the verb to be in past. If they still are not sure, you can say, "All right, let's do the first one together." Number 1, Albert Einstein, the Prime Minister. Albert Einstein, wasn't the Prime Minister. Very good. So you do the first one with them. Continue. So if the 3-part instructions didn't really help because the student didn't understand, don't say more. Don't explain again. Don't give them more instructions because they are going to get confused. If the 3-part didn't help, model the example with them. Do one with them, and that's going to make them clear. All right. So do the rule of 3. If that doesn't work, model the exercise with them.
And in order to anticipate maybe future problems, if you know that your student normally has a hard time understanding instructions, there you see 10 sentences, for example. Well, have 11 sentences so that you model the first one. You read the structure. Okay, read the sentences, then complete them with the correct form of verb to be in the past. For example, and then you do number 1, which is actually just an example, and your student does from number 2 to number 11. That's anticipating problems.
Exactly. Because there are some students that the listening part is maybe their weakness. So if you know that, maybe you can anticipate because they are more visual, you can do 1. You apply the rule of 3 and then you do the first one with them and they can continue. All right. But good. All right. Guys, there is just one last part that I wanted to mention because it was online classes in general. So I didn't know, especially what if people work with pre-recorded lessons or if you have to record your lessons for a different place. This is a little bit different. I don't like pre-recorded lessons. I don't work. I feel like feedback is really important. Engagement is really important. Rapport is really important. But if you work with pre-recorded lessons, you need to take into consideration a lot of pre-anticipated problems and solutions. All right. And it needs to be very clear on your presentation, the things that you're mentioning. Okay, because you have to anticipate what problems the person might have when they hear this or when they see this. And online platforms, somebody mentions Workwall for exercises. That one is really good. ESL Brains is really good. Lingua House is really good. There is one that is called Breaking News English. I don't know if you know them. That one is really good because they have news, like current news, and in the news you have a lesson plan. So it's really good if you have students to practice speaking. You can give them the news to read, and then you use the lesson plan for the teaching point. Also, be careful if you're going to teach online classes, if you work with Meet, Teams, Zoom, which one is more friendly. I recommend Zoom because it's the one that allows you to share, give remote, and see people and presentation at the same time. So take that into consideration as well.
Yeah,
Uh,
last class, I focus on that, on which platforms to use. I show them different platforms. Of course, I mentioned that Zoom is like the best. That's like the king of online platforms. And then I show them some others I found, including some that are not well known, but
okay.
they can, like, your plan B or C or D. But yeah, Zoom is like the king.
Yeah. It's very good. And actually I think that they are improving and they're making Zoom just for education because they know it's like their biggest client.
Mhm.
They're their biggest client. So I think it's going to get better. But well guys, thank you very much for your time, for your questions. If you have anything else that you would like to share, anything, and more than welcome. No?
Thank you so much, Carla. So guys, if you have any questions for Professor Carla, this is the time. If you have any question for her regarding the content, then I will start talking with you guys about what our evaluation is going to be. But take this time, this final minutes, to ask her any questions you have. Hello, Ricardo. I already wrote down your name. Same with Hidai and Sophie. So, questions. Take this time. Online classes, especially if you are working with or want to work with. Jackson?
Which activities do you consider that could be more interesting for online classes for young people, especially?
Um, Online activities for young people. First, it needs to be very current. You need to be very updated. But a lot of maybe videos, and I will use also maybe the news because I mean young people are using social media a little bit more, right? So maybe they are very updated on what's happening right now. So and they have an opinion. So probably they want to share their opinion. So I would use a lot of maybe news articles, videos to discuss because that's what helps you. And also, you want to be student centered, so you want them to give your opinion. So, like thought provoking material.
Could you please repeat the page, or I don't know if it's
Oh
an
yeah,
past the
it's a page and it's free. So I'm going to write
Write
here.
it down because this is part of the evaluation. Then just by chance, I didn't know that one. Breaking news. I didn't know that one.
Yeah,
Well,
it's really good because you have
included.
news and you have lesson plans for the news. So if you want to do a speaking class really fast, you
Yeah,
can use it.
because this evaluation, they have to design a digital teaching toolbox on Padlet or Genially. So all of these things, these pages, these resources, they have to include them there. They also have to explain how to use them, what you can do with those. So I need to
Very
prepare, my
the
dear, but I
teacher.
will be
That's
listening.
very
Don't
good
worry,
about
Maria.
activity. Okay.
ESL
ESL
brain.
Brain, that's another one, guys. Write it down.
That's really good because you have different topics per level and you have lesson plans.
Suhe?
Okay, my question is, what other activities do you recommend to practice speaking skills? Because sometimes students find the questions an answer boring.
Yeah, totally. What I have seen that has actually, because I always am thinking about how to make students speak, because that's our objective. And what I have seen that works a lot is, and it helps with mindset as well, and helps with confidence, is to give them a role. For example, we're going to, you're a celebrity now, like you are uh, Scarlett Johansson, and you give them prompts, give them just words. And this is an interview. So tell me about, I don't know, your last movie, and they have prompts, they're going to use it. So when they feel like they are not themselves, they are another person, first they feel more confident to speak, because it's like, oh, it's not me, it's Scarlett Johansson that is speaking. So they feel more confident. And two, they are talking about something that is out of their comfort zone. So it's a new topic or different topics, because when are they going to speak about being in a movie, right? So you give them also the opportunity to explore different options. So you can include activities like that, like role plays, like interviews, something like that that helps them uh, talk, but without actually being about them, correct? If
Yeah,
that makes
and
sense.
it's a great chance to develop rapport,
Mm.
especially if you get to know your student and you know who their favorite artists are. For example, here I have, for example, Suhe, by the way, it's like absolutely crazy about Harry Styles, for example. To the point that in the classes, her name used to be Suhe Styles, for example. So you have like the prompts, and okay, so you tell, for example, if Suho was my student, okay, so you are Harry Styles. So I interview her, and she has to answer as if she was Harry Styles. Uh, or Fragnelli, she's absolutely crazy about the one of the youngest Olsen sister. Okay, so you are Mrs. Olsen. Let me ask you, how is it? So you ask, she pretends she is her, and then you ask her questions. She answers as if she was that person.
Yeah,
And believe me, students go bananas about it. They love it.
yeah.
They love it.
Yes, and also I think that it really works with confidence, because
Mhm.
if they feel like it's not them, like if they make a mistake, it wasn't them. So that really helps
Mhm.
to,
Yeah, it was Harry, it was not me.
yeah,
I can I
exactly.
can I can ask, for example, Maria Sofia, she's writing down the chat. She's crazy about Lasso. So okay, so you are Lasso. So I ask her questions about Enrique Lasso. So I have questions about her, and she answers so well.
Exactly. Yes, totally. So you can, oh my God, talking about, well, Lasso, I just remember the most random fact. The Lasso's mom was one of my teachers. She was a teacher, she was German, and she taught German at UCB.
There you go,
So,
Sophie.
and I was
The
always like, we were always
connection.
talking about like, oh my God, that's Lasso's mom. Yeah. Also, Erika de la Vega's mom is an interpreter, and she worked for UCB as well. So,
I told them once in a class that there is this crazy 6 degrees of separation theory.
yeah,
Like there is someone you know who is connected to a famous person.
totally.
Well, Carla, you are Sophie's connection with Lasso. There you go.
Yeah,
And you are my connection to Erika de la Vega because I absolutely love Erika de la Vega.
I love her
Could you
too.
tell Lazo's mom to teach me German, please?
Yeah,
What?
yeah, no, I love Erika de la Vega. Actually, I know like some influencers, because EnglishBytes work with influencers. So I always tell them like, you are my 6 year separation with somebody that I
Yes,
like.
yes. Suhe?
Mhm.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yes.
Yesterday, in one of my virtual classes, I was working on the adjective, and I put a picture of Messi and Cristiano because my student was so crazy about soccer, and it helped him too much to tell in
Mhm.
his point of view because it was a topic he liked.
Well, if depending on the level he is now, you can, for example, you want to practice personal information questions. Okay, tell him, okay, you are Messi. So tell him, get ready to know you're Messi. So when were you born? What's your hobby? What do you like doing? Where do you play? Do you have family? Do you have kids? So he answers as if he was Messi. So it's nice. Oh, he's Cristiano. There you go, guys.
Yes.
Karen Ferreira. Ve, Maria Daniela follows her. And Maria
Yeah, she's
Ferreira,
my student.
you remember, Carla, that I sent the group? One of my students recorded this, like the EnglishBytes advertisement. Well, Maria Daniela follows her, and she saw the advertisement. Teacher, is this the academy where you work at? Yes, this is the one.
Yeah, we work with podcasts and with influencers sometimes. And we worked with Mañanitas, Alex Goncalves. I was, she's an influencer. She was a journalist in Venezuela. And she's married to, it's all that world in like Miami influencers. That's like a different world, but they are part of that. They are part of that. But well, guys, thank you very much for your time. If you have any questions, I mean, you can ask Carlos. Carlos has my contact, so you can also follow us on EnglishBytes, and you can also contact me there.
I
if you have
shared the
any
Instagram
questions.
on our
All right.
group.
Perfect. Excellent. So if you have any questions, you can just text me there. And well, thank you so much for your time. Have a beautiful weekend. Thank you, Carlos.
Thank you, Carla. Thank you so much.
Bye. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Okay, guys. Nice. So, para que nos relajemos un poco, bajemos al español porque también necesito que quede súper claro de qué es la evaluación. Voy a, que por cierto, luego se los envío para que lo vean bien, pero esto que voy a compartir es nuestro plan de evaluación. Yo sé que yo se los había enviado en formato Word, estaba horrible. Mis disculpas. En PDF lo tengo acá ya el formato de nuestro plan de evaluación. Entonces, esta sería la primera evaluación de esta materia. La mayoría de ustedes cursan la otra materia, ya hablaré de esa en su momento, pero de esta materia, esta es nuestra primera evaluación. Es un Digital Teaching Toolbox. Recuerden que trabajamos con la clase pasada, de hecho, plataformas y recuerden que les dije, busquen, averigüen, experimenten con plataformas, cosas que les permitan a ustedes mejorar la enseñanza del inglés. Y hablábamos de Wordwall, quizzes y todos. Elegí algunos random para que pudieran hablar sobre esas tools. Y les dije, tomen nota, tomen nota, tomen nota, igual de todas las que yo les mostré. Bueno, van a crear ahora un Digital Teaching Toolbox, nuestra cajita de herramientas digital. ¿Ok? La van a hacer en Padlet, que es una de las que yo les hablé en la clase pasada, que permite hacer como estas paredes de corcho, donde uno pega que si los sueños y eso. Bueno, Padlet, recuerden que era algo como eso. Bueno, la pueden hacer en Padlet, me comparten el enlace simplemente para yo revisarla o en Genial. Genial es una que olvidé comentar ese día, pero en la clase que viene dentro de una o dentro de hora y media, porque va a ser la hora y media, dentro de hora y media la otra clase de inteligencia artificial, hay un video en donde se muestra los pasos sencillos para utilizar Genial y para quien no la haya utilizado o no la conozca, también lo pueden ver allí y es súper sencilla de usar realmente. Entonces, es al menos, fíjense que dice, a minimum. O sea que pueden agregar algunas más que les gusten. Entonces, 5 tools for teaching English online. Y cuando hablo de tools, no hablo solamente de las plataformas como tal, como Zoom, Meet, como tal. Le hablo de las otras herramientas, Quizzes, que para una cosa, el mismo Padlet, Wordwall, ustedes también me mencionaron unas. Pueden ser incluso las que hayan investigado para esa tarea que les había mandado. Bueno, la incluyen allí. Dime, Suje.
Pero yo tengo una pregunta. ¿Vamos a hacer ejercicios o solo ejercicios?
No. Haces o sea, es como Si tú tienes una caja de herramientas es porque, ajá, tengo acá la llave de tuercas porque la necesito para hacer esto. Bueno, tú sabes que esa llave de tuercas sirve para, obviamente, la palabra lo dice, mover, tuercas, apretar, qué sé yo. Entonces, en ese Digital Teaching Toolbox, en Padlet o Genially, va a aparecer la herramienta, por ejemplo, Zoom, y, por supuesto, vas a describir cómo se utiliza. Ah, mira, ¿para qué se utiliza? Una breve reseña de qué es y para qué se utiliza. Si es para dar la clase, si es para comunicar, si es para crear contenido. Es simplemente eso, que tú sepas que, ah, mira, yo tengo esta acá y lo puedo utilizar para tal cosa. Así, ¿ok?
Presentación, algo así.
Ajá, simplemente. Que se vea la herramienta, ver reseña de qué es y para qué se usa. Simplemente eso, ¿ok? Simplemente eso. No sé si ahora sí me di a entender, Sophie, que dice que no entendía. No sé cómo levantar la mano. Dime, Jaxe.
O sea, simplemente hacer como una especie de, bueno, si fuese en caso de una presentación PowerPoint, en este caso de que, bueno, pones la imagen en el centro, una pequeña descripción y tres, cuatro funciones, algo sencillo.
Eso,
¿Ya? Ok.
nada más eso, salvo que no lo van a hacer en
Pero ¿cómo lo
PowerPoint.
pongo? Pero ¿cómo hago un toolbox? No podemos hacer otra cosa más sencilla. Eso es muy complicado.
No. A ver, Sophie, dale, puedes hablar, Sophie.
¿Me escuchan?
Perfecto.
Eh, o sea, estoy un poquito perdida porque, bueno, no tenía luz y no pude entrar a primera hora, pero, este, o sea, básicamente sería como un mini catálogo,
Ujú,
como tipo lo que
ujú,
dijo Jack,
tal
pero,
cual.
o sea, por ejemplo, Zoom, 2 puntos, comunicación, qué sé yo,
So, se usa para
multimedia, bla, bla,
todo en
bla.
inglés, obviamente. Se usa para
Ok.
esto, ta. Breve reseña, así como lo que yo les mostré en la clase pasada, que decía, ¿para qué es? Las características, cuánto tiempo, cuántas personas puedes tener mediante reunión.
Ah, ok.
Eso yo se los mostré en la clase pasada. Eso es lo que quiero. Eso
Ay,
es
me
lo
da miedo. Se escucha muy fácil al mismo tiempo muy difícil. Ay, espero que sí lo haga bien.
Lo único que
Pero yo,
tienen que... Sí, dime, Salvador.
no, que estaba en la misma situación que Sophie, de verdad.
Me dice, Genially o Padlet puedo usar, por ejemplo, Canva. Puede ser Canva también. Puede ser Canva también. Sí, igual, de todas formas, fíjense. Si se sienten más cómodos usando Canva, adelante. Adelante. ¿Ok? Ahora, que son la mayoría, los que cursan otra materia, la de inteligencia artificial, ahora más tarde, yo voy a mostrar, como dije, un video tutorial corto de cómo se usa Genially y verán que es genial, tal cual su nombre lo tiene, implícito. Y es simplemente una especie de catálogo, Digital Teaching Toolbox. Por eso les decía, en una caja de herramientas, tú cuando abres, ves el martillo y ya tú sabes que el martillo es exclusivamente para darle golpes a los clavitos. Y eso es lo que quiero. Entonces yo veo, abro mi Digital Toolbox, entonces veo Word Wall. Ajá. Word Wall significa pared de palabras, pero ¿qué hago yo con eso? Word Wall es para esto y esto. Se usa para esto, recomendado para esto y esto. Y de ser posible, como es algo digital, una captura de pantalla de cómo luce la aplicación o la herramienta. A ver, Sophie, luego Jaxelis.
Profe, 2 preguntas. Uno, ¿eso tiene que verse de
Ujú.
alguna forma en específico o es ¿cómo se llama? A la libertad?
Creatividad,
Ajá,
creatividad de ustedes. Lo que tienes que hacer
ok.
es algo en digital, creatividad de cada uno.
Y,
Ujú.
y se me olvidó el 2, pero déjeme recordar.
Dale, tranquila, Jackson.
Dos preguntas también. Necesariamente tienen que ser aplicaciones, pueden ser también páginas donde haya contenido, donde hayan worksheets.
Sí, todo
Yo,
eso, todo eso,
eh,
todo
em,
eso. Aplicaciones, o sea, cosas que puedes utilizar para tus clases online.
puede tener, o sea, usted dijo que era tipo un coso de estos, un archivo, pero puede tener forma de otra cosa.
Sí. Thank you, Nita. Básicamente esto, usar Genial o Padlet, bueno, Canva, ya que lo mencionaron. Mencionar 5 herramientas para dar clases online donde se puede visualizar a tu creatividad y especificar todas ellas con sus usos. Ahí está. Thank you so much, Nita. Dime, Hidai.
Dios mío, no entiendo, todavía no entiendo. Ya que estoy leyendo el mensaje de Ana.
Es
Donde se
tal
puede
cual lo que puso Ana.
explicar.
Tal cual lo que puso
Ok,
Ana.
dentro de las herramientas, vamos a mencionarlas nada más. Para dar clases online no se puede visualizar tu creatividad. Dentro de la invención de esas herramientas, vamos a poner lo que vamos a hacer con cada una, que si, ay, vamos a rellenar las palabras, vas a hacer un cruce de palabras, vas a hacer un crucigrama en este, así.
Decir para qué se usa cada una, tal cual.
Ok, ok.
Aquí está. Explain how each tool supports a specific digital teaching competence. Tal cual. Entonces, obviamente,
Ya yo
relevancia
sé cómo vas a evaluar
claro,
esto, bro.
la relevancia, porque de pronto si utilizas, si me muestras una, por ejemplo, eh, qué sé yo, Excel. Alguien se lo... Es un ejemplo tonto, pero para que vean un ejemplo.
Ay, profe, qué
Alguien que
anticuado.
por ejemplo, se le ocurre poner Excel. Ajá, pero Excel para enseñar inglés. Bueno, si tú me dices como, oye, pero no es tan relevante, no puedes comparar un Excel con un Word Wall, por ejemplo, con un Quizzes. Jamás. Claridad y profundidad de la explicación. Cuán clara es la explicación de cómo funciona cada herramienta y para qué lo puedo usar. La creatividad, aquí está Sophie que lo preguntaba, y cuán profesional es tu presentación, que se da bien lindo, es tu creatividad, es tu estilo. Ah, mira, profe, pero es que yo quiero poner gatito, quiero poner florecitas, no importa, con tal de que de verdad sea creativo y se vea bien, ¿ok? Y por supuesto, van a incluir, sobre todo, bueno, acá importante esto, y ya atiendo a los que tienen preguntas. En la parte de Reflection and Personal Growth, esto va más que todo para quienes ya tienen experiencia enseñando online. Ah, mira, que me cuenten en esa parte si lo han utilizado, cómo le ha ido con esa herramienta. Ahora, profe, mire, yo no tengo experiencia porque puede pasar. No tengo experiencia trabajando online. Bueno, ¿cómo piensas que esa o esas herramientas podrían ayudarte en tu crecimiento personal? Esa es la parte de reflexión. Voy primero con los que están en el chat, luego voy en orden Suge, María Daniela y Sofi que tienen la mano levantada. Ajá. Eh, Copiar eso en el grupo. Thank you, Suge. Excepa anotar vocabulario, uso y significados. De pronto, de pronto. Una reseña donde se explique para qué sirve cada una de las herramientas. Exacto, exacto, exacto. Bien. Eh, Vamos, Sofi, María Daniela, Suge. Sofi, que era la segunda pregunta que tenía, ¿ya te recordaste?
Ya. Básicamente podemos utilizar, es una pregunta un poquito absurda, pero podemos utilizar las que se vieron en la clase anterior. Porque como, o sea,
Claro,
yo sé que existen muchas, pero sí me
claro.
gustaría un par.
Pueden y
Entonces,
deben. Pueden y deben. Me sentiría ofendido si no las usan después de que se las
ok,
mostré
ok.
y me
Ah, y si se
esforcé
puede
tanto
usar
resumiendo.
Excel. Si se puede usar
Ah,
Excel, es muy raro, pero para
es,
hacer tipo las fórmulas, tipo
explícamelo. Explícame el
el
por
verbo
qué.
to be,
Explícame en tu presentación por qué. ¿Por qué
no,
usarías Excel? Y si
yo
lo
odio
has usado.
Excel.
No, no, es un ejemplo. Ese fue un ejemplo que les di.
Ah,
¿Cuál sería?
Porque en lo personal a mí no se me ocurriría utilizar Excel para dar clases, pero si a alguien se le ocurre o lo ha usado, bueno, explícame. Explícame
profe,
por qué.
mire, le voy a decir el ejemplo rapidito para que sepa. O sea, a mí me costaba mucho cuando estaba aprendiendo inglés. Todavía me cuesta, de hecho, las proposiciones de lugar.
Ujú.
Y de hecho, ese fue el video que vi para la actividad. Y no me acuerdo quién fue, un profesor que yo tenía que me hizo una paginita de Excel con unas fórmulas extrañas. Entonces yo escribía una oración y depende
Ujú.
de lo que necesitase la oración, se como quedaba como resultado una fórmula con esa preposición. Yo no sé
Genial.
cómo hizo eso, pero me
Si
sirvió
tienes
mucho en el
contacto con ese
momento.
profe, pídele y la puedes utilizar. Está espectacular ese tip.
No, ¿de qué, profe? Yo no me acuerdo el nombre.
No, ¿y qué? Ajá.
Pero la lista de Excel, voy a ver si lo puedo hacer para
Dale,
mostrar.
dale, dale. A ver,
Dale,
María
thank
Daniela,
you.
¿tu pregunta? María Daniela, hello. Ah, se desconectó. Suje.
¿Me
Aquí
escuchan?
estoy, aquí estoy.
Ah, ahí está, ajá, María Daniela, dime.
Se me enredó el mouse. Sorry.
Ah, ok. Dime, María Daniela.
Por ejemplo, que yo investigué una aplicación que se llama Univerbal, por ejemplo, que
Ujú,
te da el chance de,
exacto.
de usar las
¿Qué es
cuatro.
Univerbal? ¿Para qué la usas o cómo la has usado? Y si no lo has usado, ¿para qué se puede usar? Eso, que yo pueda ver, ah, mira, que será Univerbal y que lo que tú me muestres allí esté todo bien. Como es digital, por eso les digo, si ponen una captura de pantalla de cómo es o cómo, genial, mucho mejor, muchísimo mejor. Ahí
Que
Nita puso una explicación mucho más completa.
podemos
Usar
usar
Genial
entonces
y
Canva
Canva o
también.
Padlet, sí. Genial y Canva o Padlet, mencionar mínimo 5 herramientas que sirven para dar clases online, donde la visualización es de acuerdo a tu creatividad y especificar todas ellas con sus usos de manera detallada, pero simple desde una perspectiva general y personal. Más claro y conciso que eso, imposible. Suje,
¿Me escuchan?
sí.
Ok, ahora la pregunta importante es, no importa que varios de nosotros utilicemos las mismas herramientas o nos va a poner a echarnos cuchillo de que cada uno tiene que... Porque si no,
No, no, no, no, no, no, no, no, no. No, simplemente ustedes elijan, porque eso me va a permitir ver el teaching style que tiene cada uno. Ponle que tú eliges, mira, yo voy a poner Zoom, Word Wall, Quizzes y te enfocas, por ejemplo, Zoom a la hora de la conferencia, de reunirme. Word Wall a la hora de hacerla más gamificada, qué sé yo. Y Quizzes a la hora de evaluar. Bueno, ese es tu estilo de enseñanza. Pero Hidai entonces dice, no, mira, yo no trabajo con Zoom, yo trabajo con Teams. Entonces yo tengo Teams para las clases. Yo tengo Kahoot para los ejercicios y yo evalúo usando Padlet. Ese es el estilo de Hidai.
pero igual me supongo que, por ejemplo, en caso tal de que lleguemos a utilizar la misma herramienta, no lo usamos de la misma manera, porque puedo usar la misma herramienta que, no sé, que Idai lo use de una manera y yo lo uso de otra manera. ¿No?
Claro, por eso, claro, claro. Y es lo que necesito que me reflejes en la explicación. Claridad y profundidad en la explicación. Ahí está. Cada
Ahora,
uno
pero
tiene
uno
una
puede
perspectiva
escribir.
distinta, tal cual, Sofi. Cada uno tiene una perspectiva distinta. Ojo, cuando digo claridad y profundidad, no quiere decir que va a ser 200 palabras. No, por favor. Ya me decía por ahí un mensaje de María Guedes, se me pasó. Una reseña donde se explica para qué sirve cada una de las herramientas. Tal cual, María. Tal cual. Una reseña de para qué sirve cada una de las herramientas. Eso. Tal cual. Por eso les decía, es una Digital Teaching Toolbox. Si tú tienes una caja de herramientas, tú cuando la abres, tú no miras, ah, tengo un martillo y agarras el martillo. ¿Para qué es esto? No sé, pero está aquí. No, ya tú tienes el martillo y tú sabes para qué es el martillo. Bueno, cuando yo vea su presentación y yo veo que está alguna de estas herramientas online que de pronto yo no conozco como Universal, que decía una de ustedes, ah, ¿qué es esto? No la conozco. ¿Para qué es? Entonces, si reviso en internet, que sea lo que me explicaron, por ejemplo. ¿Ok? La zona de las reviews de los productos. Exacto, tipo revista, tal cual. Sí, eso lo puede hacer en Canva, que pase la página así, todo genial. Ojo, los que van a hacerlo en Canva, o quienes quieren hacerlo en Canva, porfa, recuerden cuando me lo envíen no ponerlo a privado, porque así me lo envían y me envían hoy, por decir un ejemplo, o no hoy, pero me lo envían hoy, entonces yo no lo puedo corregir sino hasta el jueves, qué sé yo, que tengo libre. Entonces hago clic en el enlace y me dice, está privado. Y chicos, mira, está privado y ustedes están ocupados o no tienen electricidad en el momento, no tienen conexión, envíenlo sin que esté privado, obviamente. Dime, Sofi.
Se me pegó el teléfono. Perdón. Entonces, si lo hacemos en Canva tendría que ser por link, ¿no? O sea, en lugar de un PDF o algo así. Y en tal caso de ser así, de ser un link, se podría incluir
Ujú.
un video. O sea, porque es que yo
Claro,
estoy pensando
claro.
acá y creo que podría ser bonito colocar un videito tipo explicando,
Creativity and professional presentation. Ahí
ok,
tienes. Por ejemplo, tomándote la idea, y esto lo pueden hacer ustedes si quieren. Ponle que una de las cosas que incluyen es alguna herramienta de las que les mostré en la clase pasada que les permita grabar videos cortitos para aplicar cosas. Entonces, que en la parte de explicación de la herramienta sale el nombre de la herramienta, una breve reseña y con la misma herramienta incluida en el Canva o en el Genial y lo que sea que vayan a hacer, un videito corto con la herramienta, mostrando cómo se usa. Espectacular. Creativity and Professional Presentation. Ahí tiene. ¿Prefiere que le mandemos link o en todo caso el archivo sea PDF, PowerPoint, por ejemplo? Si es Canva, mándeme el link solamente. Igual, por eso porque es digital. O sea, el Padlet o el mismo Geniali. Ahora, cuando vean el video de Geniali, de pronto algunos se enamoran y lo hacen en Geniali. Canva es como que más user-friendly de pronto y más común para casi todos, de pronto, o es como más conocido. Pero ahora en lo que vean Geniali me dicen bien. Lo preferiría. Me dicen poner un nombre específico o no nos mentará la madre si le ponemos nombres X. Del mismo modo que hacemos, puedes poner, el nombre sería Sofía Digital Teaching Toolbox. Si lo hacen en formato PDF, por ejemplo, pero si es en Canva, que se llame tu nombre y Digital Teaching Toolbox. Ese es el nombre que va a tener. ¿Ok? Sí, menos mal que preguntaste.
Ya va, no entendí.
O sea, cuando tú creas tu archivo en Canva, por el ejemplo que le estoy dando a Sophie, obviamente te va a pedir que con qué nombre lo vas a guardar. Entonces, el nombre que tenga ese archivito de Canva, que sea Ana Digital Teaching Toolbox. Ese es el nombre del archivo. Porque Canva te lo guarda con un nombre, presentación, no sé qué cosa, un nombre ya estándar. Pero para yo saber quién es, bueno, Ana Mendoza, porque tengo a otra Ana que no recuerdo el apellido. Entonces, Ana Mendoza, Digital Teaching Toolbox. ¿Ok? Ajá. Aprovechen, recuerden, no hay preguntas tontas, hay tontos que no preguntan. Aproveche que tenemos tiempo, bastante tiempo.
Profe,
Pues,
entonces no hay problema si pongo un poquito más de 5 herramientas.
Claro,
Ok.
dice minimum. ¿A qué me refiero con minimum 5? Que si pones
Mínimo.
menos de 5
A
empiezas a
partir de
perder
5.
puntos. Pones
Ok.
menos de 5 empiezas a perder puntos. Si quieres tú ves, mira, ponle, te enfocas en 5. Entonces, eliges. Vamos a hacer rapidito si lo estuviera haciendo yo. Una para dar las clases. Otra para ejercicios. Otra para interacción en el momento de dar la clase, que hay cantidad. Otra herramienta a la hora de asignar evaluaciones online y otra herramienta como para que el estudiante vaya llevando su progreso. Bueno, ahí están las 5. Lo puedes hacer si quieres así, pero repito, la creatividad depende de cada quien. ¿Puedo escribir eso o repetir que lo quiero anotar? Repito,
Por favor.
repito. Que
escríbalo, profe, escríbalo.
si se van, escuchen y anoten. Y bueno, si se van a enfocar en que sean solamente 5, bueno, divídanlo en 5 aspectos de la enseñanza. Bueno, voy a elegir una de tantas que hay para dar clases. ¿Con cuál voy a dar? Voy a explicar Zoom, voy a hablar de Teams, voy a hablar de Jitsi Meet, lo que sea. Esa con los ejemplos, la explicación, buena presentación. Luego, la segunda herramienta, ¿cuál puedo usar para mostrar? Está el Active Inspire, que es con el que yo les doy las clases a ustedes. Que yo le digo, Active Inspire es un PowerPoint con esteroides. Entonces, el Active Inspire, no, que yo doy la clase presentando en Canva. De hecho, la profe Karla estaba utilizando Canva para la presentación. Eso no era Active Inspire. Entonces, y vieron cómo se veía tan chévere que marcaba y ¡puf! Se veía la transición. Bueno, Canva. ¿Por qué Canva para la presentación y por qué no otra cosa? Explícamelo. Luego, mi tercera herramienta va a ser sobre herramienta para hacer ejercicios interactivos. Entonces yo elegí Wordle. ¿Por qué? Y digo Wordle porque, Dios mío, la amo. Me salvó la vida cuando le daba clases al niño. Yo amo a Wordle. Si tuviera dinero, en serio, pagaría la versión Plus. Entonces, eh, el Wordle. ¿Por qué usas Wordle? ¿Cómo lo has usado? Qué sé yo, incluye capturas de pantalla, qué sé yo, allí. Eh, Cuarta herramienta. Bien, una de las tantas herramientas que pueden existir para de pronto evaluar de manera interactiva al estudiante. Kahoot, quizzes y tantas otras que hay que te permiten hacer como una especie de evaluación. Y la quinta, una herramienta que de pronto te permita a ti o al estudiante llevar como un registro de su avance. Padlets es la primera que se me viene a la mente porque, repito, es como esta pared de corchos donde pegan las cositas. O de pronto, no tanto una donde el estudiante pueda llevar su progreso, sino si yo tengo un estudiante que él quiere practicar mucho speaking, una herramienta que sea de grabar videos cortos. ¿Por qué no TikTok? Puede ser, porque el estudiante graba el video mediante TikTok y ve las interacciones de las personas y eso le ayuda a tener su retroalimentación también. Y no descarten, YouTube es una herramienta. ¿Cuántos videos no hay? Y yo les recomiendo siempre a mis estudiantes que busquen en YouTube, pero obviamente YouTube y qué videos y más o menos algunos YouTubers específicos que buscar. También el mismo TikTok, los shorts o los reels de Instagram y Facebook. ¿Ok? Literalmente como la clase que explicó hace poco. Exacto. Thank you, María Guedes. Thank you. Thank you. Pero obviamente yo lo hice súper resumidito porque era una clase de una sola hora. Ustedes van a hacer una presentación súper bonita en su estilo. Mira, yo no, ustedes me conocen, no, tampoco es que primera vez que les doy clase, a la gran mayoría. Eh, yo no le corto la creatividad a nadie siempre y cuando siga los parámetros establecidos que usted quiere hacer todo eso con Hello Kitty, con Batmaru, con Pochaco, con, con Lazo sosteniendo una florecita, si es el caso de Sophie, con Harry Style y la patilla, si es su... No me importa, no me importa. Siempre y cuando, obviamente, hay una razón para utilizarlo. Qué sé yo, Sophie pone al Lazo haciendo así y aquí de medio de las manos del Lazo sale Genial, genial, es su estilo. No me importa, no me importa. Por eso, acá está, creativity. No se asusten por el professional, no se asusten tanto por eso. Creativity. Recuerden que tiene que ser visualmente atractivo. 5 herramientas. Una para dar clases. 2, cuál se puede usar para mostrar. 3, herramienta para hacer ejercicios. 4, para hablar. 5, llevar el progreso o de pronto una más enfocada en que el estudiante practique speaking, porque hay herramientas que son solo para speaking también. Ustedes eligen el paso 5 lo pueden cambiar si quieren. Belly con los BTS, todos así mostrando, exacto, de Hello Kitty, María Daniela con One Direction, o los Jonas Brothers, Totoro, claro, dándole, sí, no hay ningún problema. Jungkook en medio de la presentación explicando todo, también, que esté Jungkook así, con un speech bubble explicando, es ustedes, aparte de que hay estudiantes que son hiper army, estudiantes que son hiper, yo tengo un grupo de estudiantes que nuevas de la academia son 3 chicas, 2 de Maracaibo, una de Los Teques, pero viven en Estados Unidos, las 3. Y yo les digo, my pataconas en my tequeña. Y es un vacilón porque las 3 son hiper fanáticas de las series coreanas. Yo también. Y bueno, eso es los primeros 5 minutos, el social listening time nuestro, el warm-up que comentaba la profe Carla, el nuestro no es tanto el que está en la lección de EnglishBytes. Ellas son de nivel pre-intermediate, lo que es de B1 para B2. Y nuestro social listening time es hablar de X serie que estamos viendo y que nos comentamos, pero todo en inglés. No, I'm watching this amazing TV series. Y una de ellas está hiper, pero tiene el crush de la vida, así como Benji con Jungkook. Ella lo tiene con este actor coreano, El de la serie de la abogada You Want You, no sé el nombre del chico, pero el protagonista de la serie de la abogada que tiene autismo, no sé cómo se llama el actor, pero ella tiene el crush, pero así nivel Becky con Jungkook,
Que
pero con
dijera
ese
nada
tipo.
más que es el de King in the Line, nada más que dijera que era
Ah,
él, Kim Jae-won, que diga ese nada más.
yo con mis Blackpink. Exacto, Anita, si le quieres hacer con Blackpink adelante. Jungkook, no sé, Belly, no sé cómo se llama el chico, el protagonista de la serie. Propuesta laboral, creo que es esa. Ojalá sea segunda temporada. Están filmando la segunda temporada aquí entre nosotros de la abogada, la están filmando. Porque mientras se ponían de acuerdo en la parte económica, ya el protagonista grabó Potato Lab, que es una nueva que está ahora en Netflix, que es con él. Entonces, claro, él, mientras que se ponían de acuerdo con la segunda temporada de You Want You, él grabó Potato Lab. Y están, según tengo entendido, comenzando con la segunda temporada, porque fue hiper espectacular. Y quedó demasiado en un cliffhanger que uno como que, ¿what? Sin spoiler para quien no lo haya visto. Entonces, aprovechen de preguntar. Aún tenemos tiempo, tenemos 10 minutos. Mi mamá
Profe, esto se
contesta normal.
entregaría, ay, disculpa que lo interrumpí.
Ujú.
Eso se entregaría cuando el próximo sábado, ¿no?
Sí, como de costumbre, para el próximo sábado. Al
Ah, bueno,
comenzar la
chévere.
clase, ya han debido enviarme el link o el archivo. ¿Ok?
Teacher,
Repito, para el próximo sábado, ya apenas les pase el link de la clase, ya debería yo tener el link de su trabajo. ¿Quién dijo teacher?
yo,
Ah, dime Marianela y luego va
I
Hidalgo.
was wondering, maybe I'm going to the beach in the weekend, and I and I was wondering, I can send you before
No,
the, yeah,
si me lo... Ponle que se ponen en modo hardcore y la hacen mañana y me lo envían. Adelante, no hay ningún problema. Tienen desde aquí hasta el próximo sábado. Tienen una semana exacta para hacerlo. Aparte de que los que ven la otra materia también van a tener un trabajo que es un poquitito más elaborado y por eso ya verán, por eso los puse en el clip. Hidai, dime.
Pero el sábado,
Dime, Suje.
pero el sábado ambos trabajan.
Sí. Sí.
ya
Hidai,
sé.
dime.
Ay, profe, no, yo ya entendí todo. Es que me
Bien.
confundí de la hora y pensé que era
Mm.
las 9 de aquí, por eso llegué una hora tarde.
Dios
Puse la
mío.
hora de Caracas en vez de la hora de Argentina. Se me olvidó y puse
Pero
la hora para
tranqui que incluso esta interacción está grabada. Cuando la
Ah,
suba al
bueno.
canal de YouTube, ya ustedes podrán ver todo y cualquier cosa, duda que tengan allí,
Ay, gracias
revisan
a Dios,
todo ahí.
porque yo llegué aquí,
Tranquila,
pero ¿qué están
tranquila.
haciendo? ¿Qué es esto? Yo llegué así, ¿qué? ¿Pero por qué? Si van 2 minutos nada más. Qué horrible
Tranquila,
era eso, profe, disculpe.
tranquila, tranquila.
Gracias.
Bien. Hace la presentación con fotos de la playa. Ok. Entonces, si hemos quedado claros con esta, espero que no haya entonces ningún problemita. Luego por ahí y olvidé responderlo. Creo que era Belly, que si se había dudas en la semana, puede asesorar. No hay ningún problema. Me envían un mensajito por WhatsApp. Mire, profe, encontré tal. Por ejemplo, si es una que yo no mencioné en clase, o mira, buscando esto, me encontré con tal. ¿Será que puedo agregar que esto, o qué me sugiere? Adelante. Adelante. Prefiero a que me pregunten a que vayan a hacer cualquier cosa que de pronto no se sientan seguros, seguras haciendo. ¿Ok? Prefiero que lo hagan de esa manera. Entonces, esto igual, este es el plan de evaluación de la materia en PDF, bonito. Así se ve bonito, este sí se ve bonito. Entonces, se lo voy aprovechando que está Hidai. Y ahora se puede decir se ve bonito y la creadora de la frase entiende por qué lo digo. Se los envío para que lo vean bien. Igual, aparte de que ya en el grupo de WhatsApp se supone que están quienes estamos. Ya quien de pronto, ya incluso una chica que se salió, porque no sé si no va a seguir yendo a clases o qué rayos. No sé si vieron que alguien se salió, pero creo que tampoco entró a clases nunca. E igual haré con la otra materia. Les enviaré de nuevo el plan de evaluación para que lo tengan, que está todo así desglosadito, para que sepan más o menos cuándo es cada evaluación y no que les quede como que, ay, Dios mío, es ahora, profe. No, por ejemplo, la próxima evaluación nuestra es al terminar la sesión 6. Esta fue la sesión 3. Es decir, rapidito acá viendo el calendario. Sesión 4, sábado 3 de mayo. Sesión 5, sábado 10. Sesión 6, sábado 17. Ahí les enviaría esta siguiente evaluación. Y
Eso no se ve
etcétera.
bonito, eso no se ve bonito. Esa sesión.
Y
La
aquí
evaluación doble.
está la sesión 9, sesión 3, etcétera, etcétera, etcétera. ¿Ok? Eso les envío. Es que sí fue raro que lo enviaran en Word. Sí, sí, no sé, se me pasó por alto. Dime, Jackson.
Esa cuestión de la toolbox, eso, ¿lo
Ujú.
tenemos que defender?
No, no, no. Debe, o sea, que cuando me lo envíes se debe entender todo,
Ujú.
obviamente. Yo debo entender, cuando tú me lo envíes, yo simplemente leerlo, se debe entender todo lo que hay allí. Y si de pronto hay una que, mira, que yo no haya visto, ustedes la mencionan porque les gustó, déjenme, por supuesto, un enlace a internet para yo acceder a la
La página.
herramienta, revisarla. Si yo, obviamente no creo que ocurra, pero solo un ejemplo. Si yo veo que ustedes me dicen que tal herramienta sirve para elaborar lecciones de manera rápida utilizando la inteligencia artificial, por decir un ejemplo. Y yo me metí y resulta que, epa, no me permite elaborar lecciones, me permite elaborar ejercicios, más no lecciones. Allí perdimos un puntico. Pero es simplemente eso. ¿Ok?
Y
Piensen en esa actividad como la cajita de herramientas a utilizar. Te ofrecieron un curso y vas a trabajar online. Bueno, aquí tengo mi cajita de herramientas para yo diseñar y con esto yo puedo hacer mis clases con todas esas cositas que están en la cajita de herramientas. ¿Ok?
y entre todos podemos, tipo, o sea, compartirnos en el grupo de la sección, de que compartir lo que se
Por
para
supuesto, por
intercambio de
supuesto,
feedback.
por supuesto. Sé que la mayoría, o sea, sé que va a haber muchas herramientas que se van a repetir entre uno y otro compañero, pero de ahí viene la parte, cómo cada quien como profe lo explica. Esa es la parte de creatividad y explicación profesional. Cómo cada quien como profe explica el uso de cada herramienta. Ahí está. ¿Ok? Bueno, para los que ven la otra materia, nos vemos dentro de una hora, casi que exactamente, 1 hora y 3 minutos. Nos vemos para la siguiente materia. Hidai, coffee contigo y nos vemos ahora. Bye bye.
Bye.